Hi everyone, I'm just going to go over all the different parts of the deep core, how they work together, and how that is very relevant for how your pelvic floor is functioning. So first we'll review the anatomy. So you have your diaphragm, that is your main respiratory muscle that lives in the bottom of your rib cage. So that makes up the top of your deep core canister. Then you have your pelvic floor, which is the bottom. Then you have the TA, or the transverse abdominis, and the tiny little muscle along your spine that kind of make up the walls. So as you inhale, your diaphragm contracts and moves down, and your pelvic floor moves down because there's an increase in pressure between the two. As you exhale, the diaphragm comes back, and the pelvic floor naturally comes back up too. So here is a little visual for that. So as you inhale, the diaphragm is moving down, the pelvic floor moves down. And as you exhale, the diaphragm is moving back up, the pelvic floor moves up, and because of the connections between the pelvic floor and the deep transverse abdominis, the transverse abdominis naturally contracts as well. So you can kind of see that because the airs are going in and up, that the pressure is being directed up when you're exhaling. That's a very common tactic that we use to kind of decrease the pressure on the pelvic floor, because we know that the more pressure is on the pelvic floor, the more likely we're going to see the symptoms. So now we'll go into a little bit of how you can really practice this whole diaphragmatic breathing and connecting all these different parts. I really like to start in a hook-lying position because that's the easiest way to kind of focus on all these different things. So you'll be lying down, and then you'll inhale through your nose, trying to expand your lower rib cage mostly, and kind of breathe into your hands. So as you inhale, imagining that pelvic floor opening up, and then as you exhale, you can bring your fingers down to your hip bones, go in about an inch, push down. And as you exhale, you can try the H breath like you're trying to fog a mirror. Or you can imagine that you are pulling those hip bones together. So either way, you should be feeling kind of a slight tightening under your fingers, and that's kind of how you know that that TA is activating when it needs to. And it also kind of gives you some insight into what's happening in the pelvic floor, because we know the pelvic floor muscles are connected through fascia through the TA.